Welcome to LiveDaf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom and welcome to today's Daf Yomi, NIDAH Daf Mem. We will begin from the Mishnah on top. Yotzei Dofen, a child who was born by exiting the wall, who was delivered by cesarean, ein yoshvin olav yimei tuma v'yimei tahara, ve'ein chayavin olav karban. The Isha does not observe the yimei tuma nor the yimei tahara, nor is she obligated to bring a karban leda. Now, an Isha following childbirth come the yimei tuhuma and the yimei tahara. If the child was a zachar, so the first 7 days are considered yimei tuhuma. Following that, 33 days are yimei tahara. If it was an akeva, we have 2 weeks of yimei tuhuma followed by 66 days of yimei tahara. The yimei tuhuma are tamei days regardless if she sees dam or not. Likewise, yimei tahara are considered tahar days regardless if there's any dam or not. Both together, the yimei tuhuma and the yimei tahara are considered yimei meleis. Now, after the yimei meleis, the Isha brings a karban. The Mishnah teaches us that a yotzei dofen, who was born unconventionally, is not considered a typical vlad, a typical childbirth, and therefore the halachas of yimei tuhuma, yimei tahara, or karban leda do not apply in this case, according to the Tanakam. Rav Shimon says, it is considered a full-fledged child birth, and therefore she needs to observe the yimei tuhuma, yimei tahara, and of course bring a karban leda. The next halach in the Mishnah discusses where does the dam have to come to, at what point is an Isha tamei when she sees dam. All women are tamei if the dam had come to the bayis hachitzon, meaning although the dam hasn't completely exited the guf, nevertheless she's tamei. Shenemar says in the pasuk, dam yia zoiva b'bsara, dam will be flowing in her guf, and therefore even if the dam hasn't actually exited, she is tamei nida or tumas ziva. Aval hazava bal keri einon metamin, they are not tamei asher teitzei tumas al nechutz, until their tuma actually exits their guf. So we have a distinction between an isha and an isha regarding the need to have the tuma, the dam or the tuma exit the guf. An isha is not required to have the tuma exit the guf, even if it's still bivsara, she's still tamei, that's still considered a re'iyas dam. However, by a man, by a zav or bakeri, a tuma has to actually come out l'chutz in order for the tuma to be applied. For example, Dr. Mishnah, if a kohen was eating truma b'hirgish and he felt shins dazu evarav, he trembled. In other words, he felt that there was a potential for exiting of zera, and which would be matami him. Then he grasps the iver of the zachar to prevent the keri from exiting and being matami him. In the meantime, ubayleya es a truma, he quickly swallows a truma because he is yet not tamei as of yet. Umetamen b'kolshu, the final halach of the Mishnah. What is the shear? What is the amount of dam or keri that will be matame a person? Dr. Mishnah, matame b'kolshu, even any amount is matame afilu ke'ein achardl, even a small amount like the size of a seed of a mustard, and even upachas mikan, even less than that. So, in summary, we have 3 halachas in this Mishnah. Firstly, regarding a yotzei dofen, according to the Tanakam, it is not considered a proper childbirth. Regarding yimei tuma, yimei tahara, and karban leda, Rav Shimon disputes and says hareza kiyalad, he is considered a full-fledged leda, and the yimei tuma, tahara, and karban leda do apply. We'll see in the Gemara an explanation for the reasoning behind this machlekes. The second halacha goes on to explain the difference between an isha and an isha. An isha is not required to have her dam exit l'chutz. She is already tamei as long as the dam exits partially into the bayis hachitzon, into the external cavity. The Gemara later on will discuss exactly at what point is considered the bayis hachitzon. Whereas a man, regarding zav and keri, is required to have the tumah actually exit the guf in order to be matamim. For example, if he feels the tumah about to exit, he may prevent it and postpone it, and in the meantime he is full-fledged tar, and he may actually swallow the truma that he was in the midst of eating. The final halach of the Mishnah says that all these tumas are even bekosher, even a minute amount is matam. Zok the Gemara, Amar of Mani bar Patish, my tamayod Rabbanon. What is the reasoning for the Rabbanon's shita that yotzei dofen is not considered a full-fledged leda and does not have the applicable laws of a regular Leda. Amakra, Isha kisazriya v'yolda zachar. A woman will be mazriya and generate seed, and will be moilid a zachar. So we darshan, the Torah is hinting to us, ashetelid b'makaim or mimakaim shehi mazras, until the woman is moilid, gives birth from the actual place where she generates the zera, and not through cesarean. Reb Shimon says, well, we'll use the pasuk for something else. Even if a isha is moiled, a child who is disintegrated. For instance, if the fetus became so liquefied that all it looks like is as if it's zera, it's in a liquid form. Nevertheless, imay tmeya leda, the mother is still tamei leda, and that is what the pasuk is being meramas to us. Isha kisazriya v'yolda. Even if a isha is moiled, only something which it looks as similar like zera and is not a fully formed blood, nevertheless, tumas leda will apply in this case. But the pasuk is not coming to teach us that a yetzidayfin is considered a leda. Reb Shimon, my time, now let's understand the opinion of Reb Shimon. What is the reasoning for Reb Shimon? True, Reb Shimon utilizes the pasuk of the Rabbanah for another purpose. But what is the reason for Reb Shimon? Why didn't Reb Shimon go ahead and agree and learn, interpret the pasuk like the Rabban? He must have had his own reasons for doing so. Amar Shlakish, Amar Krot Teled. The pasuk gives us an extra word. There's a word Teled which is extra. L'rabois yetzidayfin. It's coming to include another type of childbirth, which is a yetze dayfin, who will be included in the general category of leda regarding tumas leda and korban leda. Rabbanan, what did Rabbanan do with this extra word? We need this pasuk l'rabbis to include tumtum v'adrogenes. We need to include a tumtum or adrogenes who are a suffix, whether they are zachar and nekeva. Tumtum has the simone zachar and nekeva. He has them covered over. He has the area covered over, so we can't tell what he is. And adrogenes is actually a combination of the simone zachar and nekeva, so they're not clear-cut, definable zachar or nekeva, and therefore I would think to say that perhaps they are not included in the dinei leda. Why is that so? Why would I think so? The sal kadai techamina, one would reason to think zachar nekeva, the pasuk teaching us the halachas of leda states the word zachar and the word nekeva. I would think to say zachar vadai, nekeva vadai. You need a definite zachar and definite nekeva, v'loi tumtum v'adregenis, but not a tumtum adrogenes, kamash malan. So now the Torah informs us with this extra word teled that although he's not a definite zachar or nekeva, nevertheless he will be included in the parsha of leda regarding imetuma, tahara, and korban leda. Now the question will go to the other side. Reb Shimon nafkele. What is Reb Shimon? Where's Reb Shimon going to derive the halacha of leda regarding tumtum and adrogenes? He's already used the pasuk of teled to be marbe yetzidayfin. So the Gemara nafkele, he derives it in the Tani bar Levai. The Tani bar Levai leben mechal makom, levas mechal makom. There's another pasuk in the parsha of tumas of leda, but the Torah over there uses the word leven or levas, not zachar nekeva, but rather leven or levas, and those words seem to be extra. Says Reb Shimon, the Torah is teaching us that any type of ben, any type of son of any kind, any type of bas, any type of daughter, even if it would be a tumtum or a adrogenes, nevertheless they're included in the parsha of leda. So true, from the word zachar or nekeva, I would tend to think that perhaps you need dafka, specifically a definite zachar, a clear-cut zachar or nekeva. And therefore the Torah comes along and tells us leben oy levas, which is a more of an ambiguous term, to include a tumtum or an adrogenes. Now, what did the Rabbanan do with these extra words, leben or levas? They already know tumtum adrogenes from the pasuk of teled. V'Rabbanan, we need the words of leben or levas l'chayev to teach us to obligate a separate korban al kol bein ubein, or l'chayev al kol bas ubas. Suppose an isha is moilid a ben, and then a little while later, suppose they were twins or something like that, and there is a gap between the two childbirths, and both of them are actually within the Yemei Malays, meaning, for example, the 70-day, the 80-day total of Nekeva, 14 Yemei Tumah and the 66 Yemei Tahara, which equal 80. Perhaps she was Mailid in the beginning of the 80, and then the second fetus, the twin, was born 2 or 3 months, close to 3 months later, within the Yemei Malays. So the Torah is telling us that Dafka, if the child was born within the Yemei Malays, then it can be included in one carbon. However, if the second childbirth occurred after the completion of the Yemei Malays, she is obligated to bring a separate carbon. L'chayiv al kol bein ubein, l'chayiv al kol bas ubas. Reb Shimon, how does Reb Shimon know this halacha? That there's a separate chiyuv for each child. Although she hadn't brought her carbon yet, she's still pre-carbon. But since the second one was born after the Yemei Malays, she's obligated to bring a separate carbon. How do we know that? Nafkalei midetani tana kameda sheshes. The pasuk says, "Zoyis teiras hayeledes." Now this is the Torah of a childbearer, of Yeledes. Torah is, the lashon teiras implies an inclusive term, to include more than one thing. Malamed is teaching us shemavia carbon echad al velades harbi. That Isha can bring one carbon and be mighty many velades. Yachal, I would think, tabi al leida val zivika achas, that if Isha was moiled, she's obligated, she has mechuyev to bring a carbon leida. And then she's, in addition to that, she's also mechuyev to bring a carbon because she was a zava. So she has two obligations, two separate obligations. I would think that she could be yaitze with one carbon. She can get away with just one carbon for both reasons, for Leida and for Tumah. Stops the Gemara and says, 1 second, why would you even think to say that? Why would you entertain that Havamina and think that an Isha can bring one carbon for Leida and for Ziva? Ella, if that's so, Yeledes the Achla Dam. If perhaps a Yeledes, for example, will eat Dam, which is Mechayev, which obligates her to bring a carbon. Yeledes the Achla Chelev. Or alternatively, a Yeledes ate a Chelev, forbidden fat, and that is Mechayev her a carbon. So now she has two reasons to bring a carbon. A, she's a Yeledes, and secondly, she ate Chelev or she ate Dam. Would you even entertain to think that she could be Yetzer with one carbon on both? There's no relation between the two Chiyuvim. Bechad carbon tiskala, is it then enough to bring one carbon? So why would you think to say that a Yeledes, who is actually a Zavar as well, can be Yetzer with one offering, with one carbon? So you can't say that. Ella, then you must mean to say otherwise. Yochel, I would think to say, Tavi al leida sheflei miles, ve'al leida shla'acham miles kachas. I would think that perhaps in the following case, that Isha could bring one carbon and exempt herself from both chiyuvim. For example, if she was moiled, if she gave birth to a child before the end of the Malays, before the end of the Yemei Tumah Tahara, meaning on day one, back on day one, the lady that actually generated the Yemei Tumah and the Yemei Tahara. And then his twin was born 3 or 4 months later after the completion of the Yemei Malays. Or perhaps if she conceived sometime in the middle during the Yemei Tahara, and she was mailed a new fetus after the completion of the Yemei Tahara, I would think perhaps, since she hadn't yet brought a carbon, when she comes to Beis HaMikdash to bring a carbon, she could do it for both together. Package deal. Talmud Bavli, Torah teaches us Zois. Zois is an exclusion. No. Although there is a clause of Teiras which allows her to bring one carbon on many vlados, that's only exclusively when the vlados were both within the Yemei Malays. So then they combine to one chiyuv. They're combined as one obligation, and one carbon can be mitzi both of them. However, the pasuk Zois sets an exception to the rule. That's only said when they were both born within the Yemei Malays. However, if the second child was born after the completion of the Yemei Malays, then it's not connected to the first Leida, and she's required to bring another carbon. So in conclusion, Reb Shimon derives this halacha of a separate chiyuv per child, provided the second child was born after the Malays, from the pasuk of Zois. If the child is born within the Yimei Meleis, then of course one carbon will be mighty both. And that's what the pasuk, the Torah teaches us. So now Reb Shimon has a source for the halacha of l'chayiv al kol ben uben, l'chayiv al kol bas ubas, and it is not necessary for him to darshan the pasuk of l'chayiv of lebein or lebas, which was the source of the Rabbanon, because he has another pshat, another drash for that source. Now the question will remain, according to Rabbanon, we are left with two psukim teaching us the same thing. Leben or lebas is teaching us a separate chiv carbon for each child. And then we have the word zois, which is teaching us the same thing. That zois is saying, well, you have to bring a separate carbon for each vlad. So why do we need two psukim for the same halacha? For Rabbanon, afagav dechsiv zois, although it says zois, istrich, we still need leben or lebas. The Torah still has to tell us the word leben or lebas to teach us an additional chiddush. Sal kadai techamina, I would tend to think, hanimili, that is only the chiv to bring a carbon on each child separately. That is only betrei ibure, when there are two separate pregnancies. Aval b'chad ibur, suppose both children were of the same pregnancy, and they were born apart, 3 months apart. Kigoyin, for instance, Yehuda v'Chizki b'nei Reb Chia, who were twins that were born 3 months apart. So then, you would tend to think, although the second one was born only after the Yimei Meleis, after the completion of the Yimei Tumah v'Tahara of the first child, they are still somewhat connected because they originated in the same pregnancy. So I would think to say that in this case, yes, one carbon could actually be mighty both of them. Amor, I would think to say, b'chad carbon sagilo, with one carbon is sufficient. Kamash malon, the Torah informs us that is not so. That although they were one pregnancy, but being that they were born so far apart, there is a separate chiv carbon on each one. So in summary, we had a Mishnah with 3 halachas. Number 1, a question regarding a Yetzi Daifin, a machlekes between Tanakama and Reb Shimon, whether it is regarded as an ordinary leda with regard to Tumas leda and carbon leda. According to the Tanakama, there is no Yimei Tumah Tahara nor carbon leda. According to Reb Shimon, there is. What is the reasoning of the machlekes? The Rabbanon learned their halacha from Isha Kisazriya V'Yolda Zachar. Torah states and is hinting to us that the Isha needs to be moiled from the place where she is Mazriya and not through cesarean. Otherwise, it doesn't have the halachas, doesn't carry the halachas of a leda. Reb Shimon, however, learns from the pasuk Teiled to include even an inordinary leda such as a cesarean. Now the Gemara calculates back and forth what does each one do with the other one's pasuk. Reb Shimon uses the pasuk of the Chachamim to teach us even if she was moiled, a dissolved fetus, still there is tumas leda in that case. The Rabbanon use the word Teiled to include even a tumtum and androgynous. Reb Shimon derives tumtum and androgynous from lebein levas. The Chachamim use lebein levas to teach us a separate chiyuv for each child that was born far apart, one during Malays and one after Malays. Reb Shimon says, well, I know that from a different pasuk. Zois Teras Heiledes. Teras teaches us one carbon can include many ledas. However, that is only what if they're both within the Yimei Malays. Otherwise, Zois will tell us that each one needs a separate carbon. The Rabbanan are basically left with 2 drashas for the same purpose, and the conclusion of the Gemara is that they're both required. One of them is to teach us the basic halacha that each child needs a separate carbon, and the additional pasuk is to teach us that even if they both originated in the same pregnancy, nevertheless, she's obligated to bring a separate carbon per leda if one of them was after the malaise of the first one. Something more weiter. Rabbi Yechanan, Umayde Reb Shimon. Reb Shimon will agree, although Reb Shimon holds that regarding tumas leda, carbon leda, a Yetzer Daifin is considered a full-fledged childbirth. Reb Shimon will be Mayde Bekachim. regarding karbanis, she'eni kaddish, that a carbon, a behemoth that was born yetze daifen by cesarean, does not acquire the kedushas haguf, the physical kedusha, because it is not headed for the mizbeach, but rather only kedushas damim. It will acquire kedusha, monetary kedusha, where you can go ahead and sell it and use the money for a carbon, just like any other object, eitzim bavonim, that a person is magdish to the mizbeach, but it will not have the stringency and the chashivas of a kedushas haguf. So again, although Reb Shimon regarding Tumas Adam considers yetze daifen a full-fledged leida, however, regarding kachim, that is not so. My time, why is that? What is the difference between a person and a behema? Gomar leida mibchar. We learn a gzera shava. The Torah connects the din of a carbon for kachim to the din of a firstborn of b'char. In both places, the Torah uses the word leida. By kachim, the Torah says shayrei chesed va'ez ki yivaled. By b'char, it says asher yivaled. So Gemara is making a gzera shava leida. Just like over there, mahosam, just like by b'char, paterechem. You need that the behemoth should open the womb, meaning that the only way a b'char is kaddish, b'kedushas b'char, is if he exited the behemoth in the conventional fashion, but not via cesarean. Afkan paterechem. So too by us, via the gzera shava, we carry over the halacha from b'char that only a ordinary leida is kaddish. Frekti Gemara, ligmar leida miyadam. By Adam as well, it says the word leida. Why don't we go ahead and learn gzera shava from kachim, from Adam to kachim, and compare kachim to the din of Adam, where yetze daifen is considered a leida? Why go to b'char rather than going to Adam? Zakti Gemara, ma hasam yetze daifen, afkan yetze daifen. Why don't we learn from Adam and include yetze daifen? Zakti Gemara, mistaver is logical to reason. Mibchar havelei lemelaf. We prefer learning from b'char because there's another similarity between karbanas of kachim to b'char. In both cases, the Torah uses the word imay. Shekein imay me imay. By b'char it says shivas yomim im imay. For 7 days he will be with his mother. And by kachim as well it says v'haya shivas yomim tachas imay. So there is a similarity between kachim and b'char, and therefore we prefer learning from b'char over to kachim to exclude a yetze daifen. Adarabba, just the opposite. Mi adam havelei lemelaf. Why don't we learn better from Adam? Shekein pashat bit pashat. There's a similarity between kachim and an Adam. They're both ordinary. They're both not b'chairim. They're both not firstborns. Rather than learn from a b'char who is specifically dafka, a firstborn. So why don't we prefer learning from Adam to include a yetze daifen? Ella, you must say mibchar havelei lemelaf. The reason why we prefer learning from b'char, shekein, there are many similarities between a carbon kachim and a b'char, and the Gemara will list 5 similarities. Number 1, shekein aim, and both of them, the Torah states the word aim. Behemas kachim, both of them are behemas of kachim, as opposed to a Adam, who is not a behema. You hope. Pigol noiser v'tamei. Both kachim and b'char possess the dinim of pigol, noiser, and tamei, which are exclusive to karbanis, as opposed to an Adam, where these halachas don't apply. So we have 5 similarities between a carbon kachim and a b'char. Adrab, why don't we say just the opposite? Me Adam havelei lemelaf. We have many similarities from kachim to Adam. Shekein, the Gemara will list a list of similarities. Shekein pashat. Both of them are ordinary. They're not b'charim, as opposed to learning from b'char. Zachar, they're both Saya Adam and Saya Behemas Kachim. They're both not confined to being a Zachar. Tumas Leida applies to a Nekeva as well. Behemas Kachim, you can bring a carbon shlamim, for instance, in a Nekeva, as opposed to B'char. Kedushas B'char only is applicable to a Zachar. So we have another similarity right there. Kadesh, both a Behemas Kachim and an Adam are not naturally Kadesh. You need to be Mekadesh the Behem in order to be Magdash, as opposed to B'char, who is automatically Kadesh at childbirth. Bimatana, there's another dimyan between Kachim and Adam, that they're both not gifted to the Kayin, as opposed to B'char, who is one of the Matnas Kuhuna. So we have many similarities between Kachim to Adam. So why do you prefer going over to B'char and excluding a Yetzer Daifen, rather than connecting it to Adam and including a Yetzer Daifen? Why is that so? And for the Gemara, Hanach Lefishan, the similarities between Behema of Kachim and B'char are more than the similarities to Adam. Here we have 5, and here we have only 4, and therefore that clinches it, tips the scales over to B'char. And again, we have on one side of the scale Adam, the other side of the scale B'char. Adam is included, B'char is excluded by Yetzer Daifen. The question was, which way would Kachim go to? Should we direct it to Adam and include a Yetzer Daifen in order to give it the Kedusha as Haguf, and it will be a full-fledged carbon with physical Kedusha? Or do we channel it over to B'char and exclude a Yetzer Daifen, even by Kachim, and it will remain only Kedusha as Damim, monetary Kedusha? And the conclusion is, we prefer B'char because there are more similarities there, and therefore Behemoth Kachim, just like B'char, will not have the full Kedusha by Behema that was born via the cesarean delivery. So that is the Chiddush of Rabbi Yochanan, according to Rabbi Shimon, that although by Adam he is included, by Behemoth Kachim he is not. Zoktim Rabbayit, Amar Rav Chia, Breider Rav Huna, Mishreider Rav. Tanya the Messiah leid Rabbi Yochanan. We have a Brisa that actually supports this explanation of Rabbi Yochanan. The Brisa says as follows: Rabbi Yehuda Aimer, Zois Teiras Ha'oila Hi Ha'oila. This pasuk is speaking about being makar of the carbon oila. The Gemara darshans Hi Ha'oila al Moikta, that once you bring up the parts of the carbon, even if there may be puzzle, you don't bring them back again down, because they become kadesh on the mizbeach. Once you bring them up, you leave them there. However, Zok Rabbi Yehuda, this doesn't apply in all circumstances. There are 3 exclusions. The pasuk uses the word zois, which excludes one thing. He, another exclusion. Ha'ila is a 3rd exclusion. So we're mamayit 3 miyutim. Har'elu gilmul miyutim. There are 3 cases where even if the carbon was brought up on the mizbeach, we still take it back down. Prat, to exclude l'shenishchata balayla. If a carbon was shechted at night, we know that we could only be makriv and do the avodas of a carbon by day. So if this carbon was shechted at night, it is pasal, and even if it's Allah al gavi mizbeach, you still will take it back down. That's the first one. Second one is v'shenishpach dama. If the dam of the carbon got spilled on the floor, or v'sheyatza dama chutz l'klayim, if the dam was left the enclosure, the curtains surrounding the Malkam HaMikdash. Now we use the term curtains claim because of the claim that were at the around the Mishkan, which was a temporary structure. However, in the Beis HaMikdash, obviously they are permanent walls. But the term stuck, and basically it means that the dam was taken out of the Malkam HaMikdash and became tamei. So these are 3 cases. Shem also tered, even though they ascended, they will descend, and you have to bring them back down from the Mizbeach. So although ordinarily any psul otherwise would stay on the Mizbeach, the Torah is being mamayit, excluding these 3, which need to be brought back down. Reb Shimon Omer, Reb Shimon says, no. Even these 3 will stay on the Mizbeach, and the miut of the pasuk will apply only to more stringent psulim, as he will list later on. Reb Shimon Omer, Oila, the pasuk says, if an Oila goes on the Mizbeach, it stays on the Mizbeach. Ainly Ella Oila Kshera. We only have an Oila which is kosher. Minayin, how do we know the rabbis to include Shenishchta Balayla, V'Nishpach Dama, Shiatza Dama Chutz L'Klayim? These are the 3 examples of Rabbi Yehuda. How do we know to include even those? V'Halon, or if the dam has been left overnight and became pasal v'hayetzai, or the carbon was taken out of the Malkah HaMikdash and became pasal. Rashi says this applies to the basar of the oila, and you want to bring it back in and be makrivit. V'hatamei, or they became tamei. V'hanoiser, or was left over past the time which is permitted. And they became pasul. V'shenishchat chutz l'zmane v'chutz l'mkaymai, or if you shechted the carbon with a machshava, with an intent to be makriv or to consume it outside of the makam that is permissible, outside of the past the time which is mutter. V'shekiblu psulim v'zaruk daman, or if a pasul, somebody that's unfit to avoida, it was makabel the dam and was zarek the dam. V'hanitanen l'malash nasen l'mata, or if a carbon was meant to be put on the mizbeach, nizrak on the mizbeach above the halfway point, the chut hasikra, for example, a chatos, which belongs on top, and instead you were zarek it underneath the chut hasikra, or for example the other way around, v'hanitanen l'mata, a carbon which is meant to be put under the chut hasikra, shenasen l'mala, which we had to be zarek above the chut hasikra, for instance, an oilas behema. Or v'hanitanen b'chutz shenasen mefnim behema, which is meant to be nizrak on the mizbeach ha-chitzain. Instead, he put the dam on the mizbeach ha-pnimi. So this is an ordinary carbon, which dam is nizrak on the mizbeach ha-chitzain, and he went ahead and was zarik it inside. V'hanitanen b'fnim shenasen b'chutz, a behema, a carbon which is meant to be nizrak on the mizbeach ha-pnimi. For instance, a par helam davar shal tzibur, or a par kohen mashiach. These are exceptional carbonates which require zrika b'fnim. Instead, he was zarikid on the mizbeach hachitzain. Or the final case will be ha-pesach v'achatas, the two carbonates that the lishma is ma'akiv. We've learned in Zvachim that any carbon which was avodas were done shaloi lishma, with the intent of being ma'akiv a different carbon, meaning he was makriv one carbon with a machshava of a different carbon. So it is not preferred, but it doesn't pasul the carbon, doesn't invalidate it. There are two exceptions to this rule, which is a carbon pesach and a carbon chatos. In those cases, the machshava is ma'akev, and if the kohen was oived shaloi lishma, with the intent to be doing a different carbon, then the carbon is pasul. So back to the Gemara, Pesach v'achatas sheshachtan shlei lishman. All these are examples of various psulim. And how do we know to include these in the halacha of im alu lo yerdu, that if you want to bring it up to the mizbeach, it requires a special kedushas mizbeach, and you do not bring it back down again. Talmud Bavli Torah teaches us zois Torah sa'ila. This is the parsha, this is the Torah of the oila, and Torah is an inclusive term. If you recall, we had that on Amar Aleph regarding a yeledes. Zois Torah sayeledes, over there as well, Torah sayeledes, the word Torah, the term Torah is an inclusive term which will include more than just the basic. And the Torah is using this terminology to be marbe riba, Torah achas l'chol ha'oilin shim'olu la'yerdu. Once you bring them up, you do not have to take them back down again. So Reb Shimon specifically states in his list, includes in his list, the three examples of Rabbi Yehuda. So he disputes Rabbi Yehuda's halacha, and even in those cases, the halacha of im alu lo yerdu will apply. However, there are a group of psulim which the Torah will exclude. Yachal she'ani marba, I would think to include as well the following cases: eser reveya v'hanirva, if a behema was committed znus or had znus committed to it; v'hamuktzah, or was set aside for avodah zarah, v'anevad, it was actually worshipped; v'esnan, if it was given to a zainav v'mechir, or it was exchanged for a dog; v'hakalayim, a behema that was a crossbreed; v'hatreifa, if a behema has one of the treifas that invalidates it from a carbon, it is actually usher to eat as well, if it has, for instance, a serious internal wound, a hole in its lung; v'yoytze daifen, or a behema that was born unconventionally via a cesarean delivery. So all these cases are not included in the halacha of im alu layerdu. Talmud Bavli teaches us zois. The zois implies an exclusion, that the latter group will not have the privilege of im alu layerdu. In these cases, the reveya, the nirva, etc., even if the kohen actually brought them up on the mizbeach, he will have to go ahead and take them back down again. So we have two classes of psulim mentioned in Rav Shimon's shita. The first class are nishchata b'layla, nishbach dama, yatsa dama, lan, yaitse. All those cases are included in the parsha of im alu layerdu. However, we have a latter group of more severe psulim, reveya, nirva, muktzah, etc., including yaitse daifen, where the halacha of im alu layerdu will not apply. They are excluded from this privilege because of the extra word zois. Now the question remains, who says? Why pick and choose? Why do you prefer the former group over the most recent group? Umar rois. Why is it that you're choosing the first one over the second one? L'rabbi says elu. Why are you including those? Elohitzias elu. Why did you choose to include the first ones and exclude the second one? And for the Gemara, Daf Mem Aleph Amud Aleph, Achar Sheribi HaKosov, since the Torah was marber, the word Torahs was an inclusive term. At the same time, the Torah used a term which is exclusive, the word zois. Achar Sheribi HaKosov umiyet. Since the Torah both was marber and mamayit, so now you have to ponder. Marbe aniyas elu. I will include those shahaya psulam hakodesh. I will include those whose psul occurred in the kedusha, in the Beis Hamikdash, in the Azorah. So they are more connected to hakrava, and therefore in those cases im alu lo yerdu. For instance, lon, yatza, nishpach dama. All these are psulim that occurred during the process of hakrava or in the makam hakrava. However, I will exclude those. However, in the latter group, we find psulim which may have occurred before, prior to being brought to the Azara, prior to the hakrava of the carbon. And therefore, these are psulim that are more severe and therefore excluded from the halacha of im'alu la yerdu. So in conclusion, we began the sugya with Rabbi Yochanan, who pointed out that even according to the opinion of Reb Shimon, that a Yotze Dofen will possess Yimei Tumah, Tahara, and Carbon Leda, it is considered a conventional Leda that is only by a Adam, strictly by a human. However, just as a Bechor is excluded from Kedusha when it is not a Peta Rechem, the Pasuk states clearly, Peta Rechem, you need to be born conventionally, so too, Kachim will be compared to that, and a Behemah that was born Derech Yotze Dofen will not be able to acquire full-fledged Kedushas Haguf, and will not be fit to be brought on the Mizbeach. The Gemara brought a brisa to support Rabbi Yochanan's Shita. We went into a whole different discussion regarding Im'alu la yerdu. If a behemah is pasul and you brought it on the Mizbeach, the Torah teaches us you don't bring it back down again. We have a machlekes Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Yehuda says the pasuk has three miutim to exclude three cases, where in those cases there is no din of Im'alu la yerdu, you will have to bring it back down again. Rabbi Shimon disagreed with those particular cases and included them in the list of Im'alu la yerdu. However, Rabbi Shimon grouped together another bunch of examples where in those cases they are more severe, the psul is more severe, and they will have to be brought down from the Mizbeach. We have a list of Im'alu la yerdu, and we have a list of Im'alu yerdu. The Gemara concluded with questioning why these are Alu yerdu and these are Alu la yerdu, and the maskana was that there is a difference between the two types of psulim. If it's a psul of psulam b'kodesh, a psul that is related to the hakrava, related to the kedusha of the azara, for instance, if the dam of the carbon got spilled out during the hakrava and so forth, those aren't as severe, and therefore, in those cases, the Torah is including them in the halacha Im'alu la yerdu, and we learn that from the pasuk of Teiras. However, the group of psulim which were not related to hakrava, for instance, the reveya or the nirva or the muktzah or the yotze dofen, these aren't related to the Beis Hamikdash or to the actual process of being makriv a carbon, and therefore they are on a lower level and more severe psul, and therefore in those cases, even if they were brought on the Mizbeach, they will have to be brought down again. Now, we hadn't concluded the proof to Rabbi Yochanan, and that we will see B'ezras Hashem in the next plot.